All right, welcome to PJ's on Airline Drive. We're out here for today's show of NewOrleans.Football, presented by PJ's Coffee, coming to you from the Ochsner Andrew Sports Medicine Institute mobile podcast studio. As always, man, we got a lot to talk about today. There's a lot of injuries, some new ones, some old ones, some guys on IR, some guys not playing. A lot to break down. How did the Saints survive this week against the Atlanta Falcons? We're going to get into that and much more on this episode of the show. If you're in the market for a new car, make sure you check out my guy, Matt Bowers. He'll get you the best car at the best prices, best customer care, locations all throughout the region. So go check out Matt if you are in the market for a new or pre-owned vehicle. All right, we're going to get into that breakdown and so much more right after this quick word from our great sponsors. Ochsner Hospital for Orthopedics and Sports Medicine on Clearview Parkway is celebrating 5 years of exceptional achievements. The hospital's integrated team has successfully performed over 20,000 surgeries using the latest in cutting-edge technology. With nationally recognized services and impactful partnerships, they continue to lead the advancement of orthopedic and sports medicine care in our region.
Rouse's Markets is voted best grocery store in New Orleans, best grocery store in Baton Rouge, Mississippi, Gulf Coast, Thibodaux, Houma, Hammond, Lake Charles, Mobile, year after year. Thank you for choosing us best grocery store on the Gulf Coast. Number one. Thank you.
Thank you.
The number one grocery store
In Mississippi, Alabama,
Louisiana. 1 million customers a week can't be wrong. Welcome to Rouse's.
The NewOrleans.Football show is proudly presented by PJ's Coffee. PJ's Coffee has some of the best drinks that you can find. They have locations all over the city. They have pastries and everything else you need to get your day started. So go check them out. NewOrleans.Football is proudly sponsored by Urban South Brewery, the makers of Paradise Park Lager. I love supporting local breweries, and when looking for a refreshing, easy drinking beer, I always recommend Paradise Park. In fact, I think it might be the best game day beer out there. If you want something a little lighter, try Paradise Light. It's everything I love about Paradise Park with just 96 calories and 2.6 carbs. And if you're looking for a family-friendly place to watch the game, I'd recommend Urban South's Tap Room in the Lower Garden District. They've got 15 TVs, 30 unique beers on tap, and mouth-watering urban smash burgers. The whole family will want to make Urban South their new living room, because at Urban South, they take laid back seriously. Looking for the best insurance coverage at the lowest price? Look no further than Chabert Insurance, the Earhart Agency. They are a local independent insurance agency right here in New Orleans, specializing in home, flood, and auto insurance. Their agents are born and raised in the area and understand our community's unique needs and the homeowners insurance crisis our residents are currently in. At Chabert Insurance, the Earhart Agency, their dedicated team will shop every available carrier in the market, ensuring you get the most comprehensive coverage at the lowest possible price. They know your time is valuable, which is why they work diligently to provide you with the quotes as soon as possible. Why settle for less when you can have the best? Trust Chabert Insurance, the Earhart Agency, to protect what matters most to you. I do. I've been a client of theirs since 2021. When we couldn't find someone to insure our house because of the big oak tree growing over top, Chabert worked until they found someone that would work with us and give us the protection that we need to feel safe in our new home. Call them today at 504-326-6526 or visit them online at Protected by Chabert. That's 504-326-6526. Chabert Insurance, the Earhart Agency, your local insurance experts. Hardhide Ponchatoula Strawberry Whiskey is an 86 proof blend of aged wheat bourbon, American light whiskey, and fresh Ponchatoula strawberries. Blended in New Orleans, it is not for the thin-skinned. Look for it in your favorite stores, bars, and restaurants. NewOrleans.Football is proud to be sponsored by Firehouse Subs. Make sure you check out their location on Veterans Boulevard. Attention Saints fans, don't let pests and termites invade your home field. Trust the team at Red Pest Solutions to tackle those unwelcome visitors. Call the Red Man today for unbeatable pest and termite control. Score peace with no pest. Visit redpest.com, REDDPEST.com. All right, let's get into the show. Welcome back to the mobile Ochsner Andrew Sports Institute podcast studio. We are coming to you live from PJ's for another episode of NewOrleans.Football presented by PJ's Coffee. I'm Nick Underhill. He's Mike Triplett. He's Brandon Thomas. Brandon, what you got for us today?
Woo.
Yeah.
Let's get into our first segment presented by Urban South, and it's about the injury report. Let's just go through and see the players who were limited in practice and did not practice today. Demario Davis, he did not practice, and DA Letter said in practice that he will be out for Sunday's game. Alvin Kamara, he was limited in practice. He's questionable Sunday's game. Cesar Ruiz did not practice, out. A.T. Perry did not practice, out. Cedric Wilson did not practice, questionable. And Chris Olave, the newest addition, he was limited in practice and he was questionable. So, what do we think?
I think it's bad, man. I think it's real. I think it's real bad. We had talked a couple times about like most irreplaceable players, and I think we're well down the list. Like Derek Carr's still standing. Alvin's injured. He's probably number 2 on that list for me. Eric McCoy was probably number 3. He's gone. Eric McCoy goes down. I think Cesar Ruiz becomes the third guy on that list for me, just given the depth on the interior. He's gone. Chris Olave would have been somewhere in that top 5-6 guys. Right. He's injured. I don't know. It seems bad. I don't really know how you overcome all this. It seems like a whole lot. We'll see where some of these guys come and if they play. A.T. Perry's also out at wide receiver. That takes down your depth a little bit. Who else is injured?
Cedric Wilson, same position.
Is questionable. That's another guy that's down. So Bob Means might be up this week. St. Brown might be up this week. I don't know. I don't know how you overcome all this. It really feels like a whole lot.
What do we know about Chris Olave? What's your best intel there?
He got hurt during practice, had to leave, got an MRI, and to be determined. You know, I think you know, they say day to day. I don't know. Sunday's not a lot of days away. So, you know, is it day to day 2 days or day to day 6 days or 5 or 4? I mean, I think they're going to try to figure it out, find a way to see if he can play. They have the walkthrough tomorrow. I would lean toward it not looking good, though. If you get hurt on a Friday practice with a hamstring, I don't know.
Feels impossible for him to beat Chris Olave, too. I mean, we're talking elite speed, talking some of the best separation in the NFL this year. I mean, if he's doing it, he's fighting through a hamstring injury, and that has to be limiting. He was higher on that list for me. When we said who's the most irreplaceable player on the team, and we were trying to determine is it Eric McCoy or not. Yeah. I think I had Olave higher than McCoy. I mean, this is I was leaning toward picking the Saints to win this game, just sort of as a you know, life finds a way sort of thing. Like maybe this will make them rally together, and that changed my pick. Spoiler alert if we're going to make picks at the end of this episode, but that's one they can't overcome, and that's one I didn't think they could overcome if they had Cedric Wilson and A.T. Perry, and they don't have those guys. You said they might have to pull Equanimous St. Brown off the practice squad. I think they're going to have to pull Equanimous St. Brown and maybe Kevin Austin Jr. off the practice squad. What are we looking at? Shaheed? Tipton? Means?
Yeah.
They're going to have to pull 2 guys off the practice squad if these guys can't play. So that's terrible. I mean, we think Alvin's going to play, but I think Alvin's going to be in the same boat. I don't know if Alvin can be an Alvin. I think you're going to have to limit what you do with Alvin. You better not give him 29 touches. You better give him half that at most, even though he's going to give it a go. So I think there's a path to the Saints being able to, you know, game plan something creative and still have a good defense. And Atlanta's got problems of their own with injuries, but this is as daunting because of the names on it. This is as daunting of an injury report as I can ever remember. Like maybe back to the COVID days. But.
Yeah, I would say if we're gonna like rank the most irreplaceable guys, I think I would probably say Alvin and Chris are the best players on the team. I think irreplaceability, like I would probably go Derek just because I don't.
Yeah, Derek was my number 1.
I don't want any of the backups in there yet.
Yeah,
like I just don't. I don't know. I would probably put Alvin too because if he goes down, I don't like any of the other running backs. I would go McCoy 3, and I'm McCoy 3 on my list just because I feel like you got to be able to run, and then the rest of the offensive line is so iffy. And then, you know, in a non-situation where we're talking about moving guys up, I probably put Chris 4th on that list. But I'm not going to quibble over. You could put Chris 2nd, Alvin 4th, but like those are the 4 guys.
And like you said, once McCoy gets hurt, Ruiz vaults into that conversation.
Yeah, it's tough. A player who was listed, who DA just revealed that was out, is Demario Davis, a player who hasn't missed any games with injury. You know, kind of where are we at with that?
I say this with the utmost respect for the player, the talent, and all that stuff. Yeah. I feel like they are just a little bit better equipped to handle that injury than some others. It's not one that immediately makes me think they're going to automatically lose this game because he's not playing just because they brought in Willie Gay, and I feel pretty good about Willie Gay. I still think he's incredibly important, spiritual leader, probably one of the best players on the field that they have, maybe the best player on the defense. the best player on the defense. I'm gonna say the best player on the defense. I'm putting him ahead of Marshawn at this point. So yeah, the best player on the defense, and huge loss. But I just think they actually built their depth at that position where it's okay for somebody to get injured and you can kind of keep it rolling. I don't feel that way about the offensive line. I don't feel that way about Alvin missing. I don't feel that way about Chris Olave missing. Yeah, I feel okay about that one though. I think they'll be all right. And sorry, not to cut you off. And Atlanta, I think, has only played 25 snaps of non-11 personnel this season. They're one of those teams like the Rams that kind of play 11 every single snap, and they kind of bunch it in real tight to kind of get a 12-type look or a heavier type look. They use Drake London and a lot of that stuff that's kind of, like you might use a tight end to chip and then go out on a route. So they kind of do a lot of stuff like that, and they get a lot of different looks out of that. So they get you – it's kind of the counter to the – they're both from the same tree. It's so interesting. Like, they're both from the same tree, and the Shanahan offenses kind of lean into doing everything heavier to keep your team locked in base, and they try to take advantage of it. Whereas the McVay offenses, they run all the same stuff, but they do it out of 11, but they do it from condensed formations to get you smaller and to try to take advantage of it. So it's kind of going at it the same way, but from opposite ends of the apple. Like, it's very, very, very kind of interesting to think about.
It'll be interesting. Knowing DeMario's been on the injury report, I wonder if they zag a little bit because the Saints are loaded with talent in the secondary. Maybe they should try to get their base out there, but I don't know if they'll do that and go away from what they do. But, it will be a test for Willie Gay, though. I mean, Willie Gay played 10 snaps a game the first 2 weeks. He played about 20 snaps last week, and now he's going to have to play pretty much the whole game. So we'll see how he fills in there. But you do feel way better about him than the alternatives everywhere else. I was just going to make a sarcastic comment and say, in however many years Demario Davis has been here, he got here in 18, right? So 7 years, they've never won a game without him. They're 0-1. He missed that Ian Book COVID disaster.
What a game. What a game.
Yeah. Going back to Chris, though, you wrote a story earlier this week kind of detailing how he wants to become a better blocker and how he has become a better blocker. And now with this injury in the hamstring, it's just like, when he's out there, he just has to do what he does to get the ball. But we'll see. We'll see how this develops in the next coming weeks.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, if you can't do everything, I don't think you play. I mean, I don't think they're going to put him out there and risk further injury. It's one of those things where you got to be smart. I feel like this is a very critical game in a lot of ways, but you don't risk one of your top 3-4 players.
We've heard Dennis Allen say that a lot about hamstring injuries. It's one where Marshawn Lattimore recently.
Yeah.
And I think there was another one earlier in the preseason, maybe, or was it? Even at the beginning of the season, it all blends together, but where his exact thing is, I didn't want to play him for 1 week and risk them missing multiple weeks because of it. And that's how they often approach hamstring injuries, which are an inexact science with recovery time.
It's an insane injury report. Like groin, calf, hamstring, like it's just crazy. And then McCoy just went on with the groin too. Like, just the luck they're having right now. It seems unbelievable. It really seems unbelievable to have all these injuries at the same time to like such good players too.
Right. Looks like our top 20 list.
I've never seen I don't know.
And like Taysom's on the report too. He's coming back from a bruised lung.
It's unbelievable. Like their luck right now. Like they died to beat Philadelphia and they gave it away. It's so disappointing. If they won that game and you have this going on, you feel different about it. Okay, they can give one back, whatever. You find a way. Be going through this and then to have Olave pop a hamstring in the last practice of the week too, that's devastating because I guarantee he was a key part of this game plan.
Oh, for sure.
Probably trying to get him in a lot of quick stuff. I bet you're probably trying to isolate him on their linebackers who I don't think are great. Like you kind of want to get in between, I think, on this defense because of them safeties and they got good corners. Like you're probably trying to match him up on some of those guys and not going to happen. Not going to happen.
Now it's time to roll into our next segment presented by New Orleans Hamburger and Seafood Company with the players available, because that's a big caveat in this one. Which matchups matter most for the Saints in this game?
The Saints have to win the game they just lost to Philly. They need to be the ones winning 15-12. They need to be, or 12-7 or 9-6 or whatever it is. It needs to be 3-0 going into the fourth quarter. And they can do that by limiting Atlanta. I need to see the Saints defensive line. We didn't mention a single Saints defensive lineman on that injury report. We need to see Chase Young deliver on his potential. Carl Granderson has probably been a candidate for defensive MVP so far. Cam Jordan, we've talked about his limited role. Peyton Turner, Brian Brzee, all these guys. Atlanta's injury report's the same thing. They put their starting center on injured reserve this week. Caleb McGarry, their right tackle, was officially ruled out. Even Jake Matthews was dealing with a minor injury, their left tackle. And what did Bijan Robinson average, like 1.9 yards a carry in the last game? That offensive line has its own problems. The Saints need to make them feel it just as much as the Saints themselves are feeling it, and they need to make it so that Atlanta can't score in this game either, so the first team to double digits wins. That feels like the way out of this game.
Key matchup for me, I think it's just the Saints in general versus Zach Robinson. He comes from that McVay tree, and I don't think we've ever seen the Saints defense as broken as they were last year against the Rams. They were shattered. There were guys running open that whole game. People were confused the whole entire game. All that motion and the different stuff they do. Hopefully they got some practice against that type of stuff in training camp. But this scheme just broke them like in ways that was almost unbelievable last year. Like that was the most helpless I think I felt watching a DA defense. So they got to be ready for all that. That was a Thursday night game. I think you're doing that on a quick turnaround. Like you got a full week to prepare for it. So just kind of being sound. I hate the phrase eye discipline, but I think it's the truth in this one. Like you have to be keyed in on the right stuff, not get your eyes going in the wrong places, and make sure you're watching where to make the plays. And I think that becomes even harder though against a quarterback like Cousins, who's really good on boots. And like the Saints talk about trying to make everything look the same, he really makes everything look the same, and he might be the best at that of anybody in the league. Like his drops and everything, like they're indecipherable. So eyes in the right place, not just with the motion, but on the quarterback. Like I think there's a lot here that could break them a little bit and maybe open up some big plays.
Zach Robinson doesn't just come from that tree; he comes from that game. He was on that Rams staff last year when they were lighting things up.
Sticking with the defense, I'm going with the secondary. They can't allow any big home run plays with Drake London and Mooney and even Kyle Pitts. Like we saw that last week against the Eagles. That's what won them the game. So they can't.
You're saying don't run into each other this week?
Yeah, all of that. They
Pitts had an explosive last week against Kansas City too.
Yeah, you can't allow them to beat you, and you can't beat yourself. So that's why I'm going with the secondary on this one.
Who's left on the offense to do an offense matchup? But look, I'll say Derek Carr versus Jesse Bates. Talk about a guy who had his number. I mean, Jesse Bates has the whole NFL's number, it seems like, over the last year and a half. What a great pickup he's been for the Falcons. And I think that was Derek Carr's worst play of the season last year. And it was Jesse Bates using some veteran savvy as well as his skill to pick off Carr on the pick six last year. And now I think Carr's going to be in a position where he's going to have to take some chances, take some risks. We obviously just saw that backfire on him with a minute to go in the Philly game where he decided to try and force something. Unfortunately, I think Derek Carr is going to be a quarterback under pressure who's trying to force things. And when you've got Jesse Bates and Justin Simmons as the smart, savvy veteran safeties taking advantage of your mistakes, you got to try to play mistake-free while under pressure the whole time.
Yeah, and you just mentioned him, Simmons, too. I mean, he had a great pick last week against Mahomes. Like, he jumped her out in the end zone, I think. Yeah.
Travis Kelce one?
I don't think it was Kelsey. Does Kelsey still play football? Does he? Like, I don't know. Was he got 6 catches for 90 yards this year or something like that? It's crazy. But, yeah, he jumped her out in the end zone. Like, it was just a really savvy play last week. I'll go Judon versus Trevor Penning. He's rushed most of the time over the right tackle. He'll move around a little bit. He had a run stuff last week off the left edge, but most of the stuff was over the right. That's going to be a tough matchup for him. And I think there's going to be a lot on the tackles this week because you're going to probably kind of have to shift stuff a little bit towards the inside, and those guys are going to have to try to figure out how to get some stuff done. Obviously, you can still bring some tight end help over there. I don't think Judon's the player he was 2 years ago when he had 15 sacks, but he can still get some stuff done. And, I think that's a big matchup for him this week.
I'm expanding that pick to the offensive line as a whole. I think, you have Matthew Judon, but you also have Grady Jarrett. And then you have familiar faces like David Onyemata and Katavius Street, people that, as we know firsthand from watching them even play here, can get to the ball. So I think this hodgepodge O-line just being able to come together, communicate, and make things happen is important.
And then just building off that, I'll go the secondary as a whole. Like, I think they got really good players across the secondary. Alfred's a good player. A.J. Terrell, obviously, has been good for a long time. Mike Hughes is kind of maybe the good corner now. Like, teams kind of throw at Terrell more than Hughes right now. He's been playing really well. He tackles really well. So that'll be interesting. And then also just, them defensively versus the front on the offensive line. Raheem, runs this 5-1 front that's pretty effective. We saw a 6-1 last week, so kind of based in the same principle a little bit, but they do some stuff up front that I think is pretty interesting. The disguise on the back end, obviously, they got the 2 safeties that are just maybe the most 2 interchangeable safeties in the whole league. It might be the best combo in the entire NFL, and they do a lot of disguise back there. Their fronts are real interesting. I think it's going to be a tough game, schematically. They did a really good job against Kansas City, and that's a good team.
Yeah. Let's roll into our next segment presented by Shawberry Insurance, the Earhart Agency. Look, we never want to sleep on a player, but a player who has been making things happen is the Honey Badger. Are we giving Tyrann Mathieu enough credit for turning back the clock to start this season?
It's funny. Somebody pointed out, however many straight games with an interception, and he put star. 4 straight games with a forced turnover. He's feeling good. He's feeling great. I'll be curious for Nick's take because he's broken down every snap on the film reviews, and those are splash plays that he keeps making. But the defense in general is playing really well. Mm-hmm. He was part of the big screw up against CeeDee Lamb on the first of their 3 60-yard touchdowns they've given up over the last 2 weeks. But he wasn't really a huge part of the mistakes on the other 2. It wasn't really his position to make those plays. Maybe he could have helped. But I feel like he's playing pretty good in general, and he's definitely making those splash plays, definitely feels energized, and I think that's really important for this team.
No, I think he's been good, man. I think he's been great since the very beginning. I remember, idiots were hating at the beginning of the first season. I think it was a game in London. There was, this open field tackle that would have been impossible to make, and everyone was, kind of talking. I think he's been better than advertised since day one, and I think he's just probably the smartest player in the league. One of them. He's always in the right place, always at the right time. There's a play this week. He made a pick. It was off tendency, and Joe Woods was like, "How did you do that? What did you see? How did you figure it out?" That's who he is. I've heard he logs more film hours than anyone on the team. There was a tight end last year who isn't on the team anymore, and I can't think of his name. He was number 1 on the list, Tyrann's the guy, though. The tight end, he was single, didn't have any family, was just there all the time, they said. But Tyrann, top of the list, studies harder than anyone, sets the tone. I think he's the guy that you want everybody on your team emulating and trying to follow behind. And he's been that, done that, and he's it every single day for this team.
No, for sure. In Kansas City, he went by, along with Honey Badger, he went by a nickname, the Landlord, and that's exactly what he is. He's governing everything. He's seeing how everything is set up, and he's making plays, and he's making stuff happen.
Total Maintenance is one of the largest locally owned home and commercial service providers in South Louisiana. They were founded in 1980 and serve the greater New Orleans and Baton Rouge markets. And Total Maintenance wants to show some love to our NOF listeners. They have a membership program that gets you 2 tune-up visits for AC and heating, as well as club membership discounts of 15% on all repairs, half off of all diagnostic charges, and 3-year warranties on most repairs for membership clients. This is usually priced at the low price of $24.95 a month per system, but if you tell Total Maintenance that you found them through NOF, they'll lower the price to $20.95 per month per system for as long as you keep the membership active. It will never increase. Total Maintenance has a tune-up special running this summer for $79, down from the normal price of $179. This is a one-time offer for one system only. They also offer a free diagnostic on second opinions on units deemed to be unrepairable. And they offer free estimates for replacements as well as commercial maintenance programs. Services include AC and heating service and replacement, electrical service, plumbing service, as well as generator service and installation. They are Total Maintenance. Find them at tm-ac.com or give them a call at 504-841-3300, or if you're in the Baton Rouge area, 225-480-1000. Martin Wine and Spirits is home to a selection of hand-picked barrel select bourbon, whiskeys, and much, much more. They are family owned and operated since 1946 and specialize in wine, spirits, gourmet food, gift baskets, catering, and tasting events. They have many locations, so they're never too far away. You can check them out in Metairie, New Orleans, Mandeville, and Baton Rouge, or if it's more convenient, you can always shop online. Whether you're a wine novice or a seasoned collector, you'll enjoy the Martin Wine and Spirit experience.
Score big with kickoff combos at New Orleans Hamburger and Seafood Company. Comes with fried shrimp and your choice of soft-shell crab traditional or our famous thin-fried catfish, all served with garlic herb fries, starting at only $10.99. Only at New Orleans Hamburger and Seafood Company.
with Saints Score. Win up to $100,000. Enter the second chance drawings for cool Saints prize packages. Play Saints Score scratch-offs from the lottery.
All right, guys, it's the best time of year. Football's back. We're talking NFL Sundays, college football Saturdays, and the glorious grind of fantasy football lineups. This is where your inner GM comes alive. Setting the perfect fantasy roster, screaming at your TV, and making last-minute waiver moves that either make you a hero or the guy everyone ridicules in the group chat. But listen, while you're over here making sure your fantasy team is dialed in, don't let your personal grooming become the guy that gets left on the bench. Let's be honest, nobody wants to fumble their grooming routine. That's where Manscaped's Performance Package 5.0 Ultra comes in, acting as your all-in-one grooming playbook. From keeping things sharp down below with the Lawnmower 5.0 Ultra to taking care of those rogue nose and ear hairs with the Weed Whacker 2.0. This is the lineup that'll keep you looking and feeling like a champ on and off the field. Join the 10 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped and get ready for kickoff by heading over to manscaped.com. Use the code NewOrleans, that's one word, for 20% off and free shipping. Trust me, you'll be drafting the real MVP of grooming this season.
There's nothing quite like the feeling of stepping into your dream home. At Jefferson Financial Federal Credit Union, we can help make that dream a reality with a team dedicated to you. When you partner with Jefferson Financial, you do so for the life of the loan. Having a single point of contact when questions arise is invaluable. Our experts are here to guide you every step of the way. There's no better time to invest in your future. Apply online at jeffersonfinancial.org. Federally insured by NCUA. Equal housing lender.
Whether you are a local New Orleanian or a fan in town for the game, get your pre- and post-game fired up at Aaron Rose. Local chaos and local love for the black and gold. Wake up and live with daily drink specials, mimosas, screwdrivers, Bloody Marys, and hot or frozen Irish coffees, all just $3 or $4 between 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. Aaron Rose, half a block from Bourbon Street in the French Quarter, 811 Conti Street.
Welcome to the Queen Casino, where entertainment meets unparalleled customer service. From our days on the water to our new land experience overlooking the Mississippi River, our dedicated staff is here to ensure your visit is nothing short of exceptional. Whether you are coming or going, our well-lit parking lot and security team provide guests with red carpet treatment. Our security team keeps watch so you can focus on fun and fortune. From table to table, our attentive staff is here to serve up the ultimate experience. Join us at the Queen Casino. Your royal adventure awaits.
Welcome into the mobile Ochsner Andrews Sports Medicine Institute podcast studio here at PJ's Coffee on 2600 Airline Drive. It is now time for our next segment presented by the Louisiana Lottery. Rashid Shaheed has 0 catches on 5 targets last week. Is he just a boom or bust player? Was this just the matchup? Or would you start him with confidence this week?
Yeah, you got to start him with confidence.
Now you
Nobody
do,
else.
Yeah, look, this is a good question in general, but in this game, I think he's got to be a volume guy, right?
Yeah,
I mean, short,
Yes.
intermediate. I don't know about deep because Derek Carr is going to have to get rid of the ball in 1 second on every play. But I thought he was going to be used differently than he's been used so far this season. Now, again, we've said this a million times. They've only 11 completions 2 weeks ago, 14 because they were winning by so much, 14 completions last week because they're not having any time to throw and getting pressured so much. There's going to be games where Derek Carr completes 30 passes, and I think there's going to be games where Rashid Shaheed catches 7 passes, maybe this week. So I still think all the things they said about this offense, he's learning how to run real routes. He's going to be on the field all the time because they make their pass look like they're run, and they don't want to have tells based on personnel. I expect a lot more than this, but his home runs were deep balls, and it seems like every time Derek Carr throws him the ball, whether it's a completion or incompletion, it's a 60-yard pass every time. So that's something I want to see more of. I expected it. I still expect it, but I want to see more of it.
Yeah, it's been a really weird small sample size of the passing game to start the season. And then last week was just – it was so difficult, like just to really kind of get anything going. We've said a million times 11 passes in 1 week. The week before was kind of limited. Olave was kind of pushed out of it. I don't think we've seen the full spectrum of Rashid Shaheed plays yet.
Let's roll into our next segment presented by Aaron Rose. Sometimes we can get a feel for the locker room, how the vibes are, how things are going, where the team's morale is at going into the game week. That doesn't really count for much, but it's just something we're able to observe. What do we think of how the Saints operated this week with all the injuries and the things happening?
Yeah, I mean, the the practices were shorter every day this week because they were trying to get healthy, and it's just kind of where they were at. I would say it felt fine today. It was fine today too, but there was definitely, you could tell something happened. I started asking questions because I picked up on like a weird, like, what's going on here? Like, talking to people, like, what's happening? Like, you could just kind of tell there was like a cloud over everything. So I started asking questions and ended up finding out about Olave getting hurt in practice. But I think they feel confident though. I mean, I think it was just kind of, we talked to them right after practice is over. You could just kind of, I don't know, you're in a room every day, like you can kind of feel when what's going on here? Like someone moved the lamp. That's kind of what it felt like. So, I think they feel like they're going to find a way though. I really do.
I wish I could go back in time and chart that. Like, you hindsight 2020 that stuff sometimes. Like, I wish I marked on like a Friday. Do I feel like the Saints think they're going to win this game, and see how often I feel that? I know we used to definitely chart Sean Payton's mood on like Thursday conference calls. I was like, oh, he knows he's got this one in the bag. Yeah, and that went off and translated, and guided our predictions even when you could tell in his mood if he thought he had the right game plan. The one thing that was 100% clear to me was all the stuff we knew at the beginning of this week, the injuries they were dealing with, and just that gut-wrenching loss, the way they lost it against Philadelphia. That this team was a team that knows it's good, like, and knows it has good leadership. Like, this is not a team that started questioning itself because they played bad. They were like that was a missed opportunity. That's how they treated that game. Not
to interrupt, I actually got the sense that they felt like outside of maybe two plays, I feel like they were very pleased with how they played against Philadelphia.
Yeah.
I think there's like an outside perception of like, well, they scored 91 points, so it should have been, off to the races. I feel like they felt like they got into like a playoff type game and showed that like, we can stand in and slug too. And sometimes you got to slug your way out of the ring. And I think that's how they felt about that game. I don't think
it felt like a 12-7 win.
I think they felt like it was the same thing as 40 to 35 or whatever it was. Like, I feel like sometimes you get in that type of game, and I know everybody like wants to style points, but you don't get those every week. You don't. I mean, and I think they felt great about what they showed in that game outside of the couple letdowns.
And and I think I was I still am kind of excited to see how they game plan around the ridiculous barrage of injuries on the offensive line. But I think if you limit or take out Alvin Kamara and Chris Olave on top of that, like, how can that not be a little bit of a spirit killer? Like, I mean, what can your plan be if you're like, we can't protect and we have no one to get the ball to? Like, what could the plan possibly be this week?
I don't know. Like I said, I kind of thought that it was going to maybe be like a lot of quick passes, and now, like, what do you do? Like, you can run Rashid on that stuff, but I don't know. Can he do it? Well, we're going to find out. Yeah. I'm eager to see what they can do. I just don't know that there's going to be an answer to the doubt, but I'm going to wait to see before I declare it. But I think if you're picking, you gotta look at the injuries and logically, and we'll get the Mike and Nick with the egregious pick, but logically looking at it, I don't know. I don't know how you
before we find out if Chris Olave is going to play or not.
We'll pick on the pregame show on Saturday. But I mean, I don't know how you would. If he doesn't play, I don't know how you pick him. If he plays, I'll probably give him a pick.
That might make the difference.
Nah, going back to what you said, like, following the game, the vibe in the locker room was like, hey, man, we lost this one, but we got to spit the taste out of their mouth and go back out there next week and make it happen. But now, with these injuries just piling up and mounting, and people like Chris Olave, it was a little bit like, what's going on in here today? Because everybody was, I don't know, it just felt like something. You're right, it did feel like something, but we'll have to see. They'll just have
to the Philly game too. Like Kubiak, someone asked him about it. He's like, "Man, I loved how we played in that game." Like, I think I don't know what the expectation is, but like sometimes like you play in a rough and tumble type of game, and those are ones that I think people like to figure out what they are. I think that's where you find out who you are.
The importance of early season games. I mentioned this in the story I wrote on how Kubiak and Carr and everyone is responding to the sort of somebody exposed you or out game planned you. How are you going to bounce back from that? I think there's something really important about what they did in the first 2 weeks, even if it was like unrealistic and it felt a little fluky to score 47 and 44. That stuff is going to carry over for a long time. Like showing that is part of your makeup. I think is going to buy a lot of grace and a lot of patience and allow you to come back from a loss like this and be like, well, we still know what we are. I think that really helps.
I would hope in the fan base, too, that playing like that and seeing it allows you to be like, well, Alvin Kamara was hurt, Chris Olave was hurt, Demario Davis was hurt, Eric McCoy was hurt, Cesar Ruiz was hurt. Like, maybe that mattered instead of being like, you guys are making excuses. Like, well, no, like, you're taking out all the best players. My favorite thing is, like, when good players get hurt and they're like, well, that shouldn't matter. It's just like, all right, like, but that's why you pay like guys $20 million. But like, no, like the $495,000 player should be able to place the $20 million player. Like, it shouldn't matter. Like, come on. I hate those conversations, but I will say, like, yeah, the lack of depth at wide receiver, like, that probably should have been addressed at some point, and it hasn't been. And now somebody gets hurt, and you might be absolutely screwed because you did not build out your depth at that position.
You know what this injury report reminds me of? As you said that. The Green Bay Packers injury report in Week 3 last year. Remember, it almost felt like they decided, we're just going to lose this one.
Yeah,
like Bakhtiari, Jair Alexander, was it one of their top receivers? Like, it was like 5 of their 7 best players did not play. Yeah. And the Saints took a 19-0 lead in that game, too. So that just proves you can find a way.
Just hearing you list those names off again on the injury report, it's just like, golly, bro. Like, but we'll have to see. Now it's time for the Martin Wine and Spirits questions of the day. Martin's is home to a wide selection of hand-picked barrel select bourbon, whiskeys, and more. Martin's so much more than just wine. Today's first question comes from Saints Guy. Does the fact that Alvin is playing hurt already prove that the Saints should pay him, or is it proof of why it's not smart to play older running backs?
It's both. Like, this is strengthening both arguments. It's strengthening Alvin's argument for why he should have gotten the contract done sooner, or why it's worthy for him to fight for more long-term security. And this is why the Saints drew a line in the sand, held firm in the ground, because of course they love Alvin Kamara. Like, who wouldn't love Alvin Kamara? But they don't love investing in a 29-year-old running back because, but either way, whether he's under a 1-year deal or a 3-year deal or whatever they end up doing, they can't ever. I don't ever want to see 29 touches again for him ever again.
Yeah, it's a lot for him. Like, I wrote it a couple times. Like, if you want to get to January, you can't have him touching the ball 30 times in a game. Like, not this early in the season. Wait until then. I'll just say what I said before. Like, he doesn't have any security, and he's willing to risk his body. Like, he's going to play with a broken rib in a game where, like, and they aren't paying him, and he's still going to go out there and show up for him. I mean, I don't know what could be more team first than that. I'm surprised. Like, I was surprised, to see him doing that. Like, I probably wouldn't, truthfully speaking. Like, no, I'm
behind this offensive line, too.
I'm going to take care of myself and get paid. Yeah, behind this offensive line, too. A lot of people would. A lot of people would say, you know what, like, I'm not going to go out there and get more hurt, or I'm not going to go out there and put out bad tape. And, people are going to say, oh, well, he fell off because he's 29 years old or whatever. So, shout out to him for doing what he's doing.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Next question from Nolan Garman. Taysom Hill over under 10.5 touches versus Atlanta.
Good job, Nolan. That's a good number. He's been under it so far this year. Obviously, didn't play last week with the injury. Wait, did he not play? Yeah.
Yeah, he didn't
play.
play.
He didn't play
I'll
last
take
week.
the over on this just because where else are they going to go with the ball?
Exactly. I mean, I think so, too. I mean, I think he's, especially if Alvin's limited, I think he's got to be a big part of the running game. I mean, things are going well if they can get him 8 carries. Things are going well if he can get him 8 carries, but he could probably also get 3 or 4 catches. I don't think way more than this, but I think if he gets 8 carries and 3 catches in this game, that means things are going well for the Saints. I'm still going to take the under, though, because I just think that the Saints are going to have a hard time establishing anything. There's going to be a lot of 3rd and longs in this game.
That'll do it for this edition of NewOrleans.Football. We appreciate y'all for stopping in. Be sure to check out our pregame show this Sunday in Atlanta because, hey, we'll have all the news there for you. Overtime is next. Catch you next time.